Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Iman. I hope you're doing well today. For centuries on end, we have been undeniably living in a male-created society, a society which we all know was created by working men, until all of a sudden, a wave of female empowerment washed over us which caused quite the uproar, leading to a fundamental crack in the normal functionality of the structure of society. A tear in the delicate fabric of society which kept things running smoothly and beneficial for all, and perfectly wrapped around society and makes it to be for what it truly is. What women fail to realize is the truth of us needing men to survive and how this very standard hardwiring can be found in every one of them, be it building a roof over your head or opening the lid of a jar. This mindset has remained the same throughout centuries. Now this begs to question, who changed? The man or the woman? Or is it the women changing for the men? If you're interested to find out the what and the why, you're welcome to stay and to listen and learn something new about yourself or the people in your life. Before beginning, as usual, I have to put a caveat that when I speak about men, I speak about them in their natural form, not the perfect or the ideal male, but men in their raw masculinity are being addressed here. Not the other strange kind, which we will get to later, so please put them on the back burner for now, as hard as it may be. And by females, I mean all of us. Thank you, and now let's begin. Bismillah. The biology of man has always remained the same throughout centuries and decades, where they all share one common goal which has been embedded in them, that is to provide and protect. Whichever way they may see fit, this will truly always be at their core, and their standard subconscious response when danger or a threat of some sort arises. So much so that it doesn't even need to be someone they know. It is embedded in their DNA, which would be just impossible to alter. As strength and assertiveness is their strongest suit, their biology allows them to act in a different way than women in danger or times of strife, because they have always remained unchanged in their ways. Just think about it. Men were supposed to be the opposite of women, so most of the social or physical traits we have, they won't. Men are not as emotionally and socially intelligent and nowhere near as materialistic, and so as a result have not broken through their gender roles of being a protector and a provider, and neither refraining from the jobs where masculinity is desired and dependent on, be it a police officer, soldier, construction worker, firefighter, sailor, or a captain, etc., etc. Of course, no one's saying that male violence and dominance isn't destructive to society and its people, yet only if it's uncontrollable and has no limit. That's called war. So like everything else in life, we need a balance of both. The strength of a man is what keeps structure and order in society from running wild and amok. Without this sort of aggression, how would anything actually be protected and secured? Say, if a thief or a killer breaks into your house, wouldn't your first instinct be to call the police or any man in charge who would be appropriate for it? And say, for example, you call a man in power to come and defend you and your house, and if he fails to do so, wouldn't you be left absolutely disappointed? Now on the opposite end, the same applies to women too. If we let our strength, which is our nurture, warmth, and kindness, run our lives, it would leave us empty-handed and highly taken advantage of. This, in other words, is called a doormat, and doormats are never respected nor appreciated for their hard work, time, and energy, be it a man or a woman, because an excess of access to anything even, be it positive or negative, can be so harmful to anyone if used the wrong way or prolifically. We need water to survive, and without it, there would be no life and we wouldn't last. But also, too much water can kill you too, whether the sea levels start rising or you drink too much of it in a day. So to simplify, men never really changed, we simply changed our point of view of them, and gave their once considered very normal behaviors and their survival mechanisms a new spin on how different and a deeper meaning it has, and making it reflect off on us, as well as bringing every micro-masculine behavior a hit to our egos, be it a job they're known for being good at or simply their sitting posture. In the olden times, they would go out and hunt for a deer to bring home for all to eat, just basic survival instincts. That version in today's era is all about money and hustle culture and the obsession for extreme wealth and the endless hunger for more. So in other words, capitalism. If these things were completely useless to women, then would overly materialistic and luxury lifestyles be just as important to men as they are now? As far as I know, the male species could barely care about what fabric their shirt is woven and from where it's been imported. The littlest details, albeit very important, matter to us because we don't fancy surviving, but rather living and enjoying every second of it. Men have always been the courtiers and the sole providers in order to impress and win over the female counterpart. The same ideology and process exists in the animal kingdom. But now, unfortunately, the tide has turned, and thanks to the modern woman, all that has changed. Princess treatment or spoiling a woman is so looked down upon in the West, not by masculine men, of course, but by modern women. They feel as if it's taking a hit to their ego or makes them feel less than and weak or vulnerable, which couldn't be farther from the truth in the case of a woman. A woman's value exists from the second she was born, and the total opposite is in the man's case. But we don't hear them complaining about it. The new trope of the modern working women and their belief system has now switched the dynamic in society that had been in place for all of Earth's time. For now, all the women to do the chasing, approaching, and courting, along with a sense of pride and a smile on their face. The brainwash that has spread throughout, primarily in the West, in the past 10 to 20 years is truly remarkable to note. Now we've fallen under the false notion that female liberation falls under dressing provocatively, slaving ourselves away to corporate jobs also run by ruthless men, where the bosses couldn't care less about you or your personal values, opinions, or your life as a whole. Not to mention putting your feminine health and the ability to start a family on the back burner. They just see you as a walking dollar sign, and in most cases something, much less. Someone who's just bringing in money and benefiting them and the company. Might I add, they can fire you at any given moment without any real or heartfelt explanation. So when women can come in and do their jobs and basically become men, then how is it possible that the same woman can act puzzled when they stop viewing you as a feminine woman of value that values herself, or the mother of their children and their support system after a long stressful day at work, when you've essentially become his competition and are brooding in the same calculating, analytical, hustling masculine energy? This one, strangely enough, comes as a shock to the modern women as they continue to look for Mr. Right, or in today's lingo, an alpha male, when all they've really done is essentially become the repellent of such a strong leader-type man. Slowly but surely, we are seeing this notion surfacing on the Muslim woman's side, which is concerning, as this totally goes against Islam's ideals for women. The Prophet ﷺ was once asked about his most memorable and heartfelt moment with his beloved wife, Khadija radiallahu anha, to which he responded, "She believed in me when no one else believed in me." It was the time when he returned from the cave of Hira, and the first revelation was decreed upon to him. She provided him support, and he said that was the best thing he could ever hear in that very moment. He wasn't looking for advice, he just wanted her to listen to what had happened to him, and just understand that. So, to be fair and frank, this L really does land on the females. We're not supposed to be treated equally, but to be treated better. Chivalry may be dead because women killed it. Now, the oldest and most natural behavior pattern in humans is that men give and women receive. There isn't really much we can do to stop this mindset, as it's something which is embedded in all of us, and for a reason at that. However, the thing to note here is that women have seamlessly relinquished their feminine power and decided to roll up their sleeves and join the men in the fields and work alongside them. I'm positive that if the maidens, queens, and everything in between from back in the day had heard this would be the future of the female, I'm not sure whether they'd laugh or doubt it or simply die from the thought of it. Now, in the ways in which women have successfully done this is by A. lowered their value, believed they deserved less, and as a result started to do more. Examples being in situationships, staying in situationships, wasting their precious time, talking stages with everyone, entertaining random people on your phone to seek validation of some sort, or just information dumping the second you meet someone, etc., etc. And B, they become his competition, making everything built around her own ego and being unable to let go of things that do not serve them, especially things that constantly corrode their relationship with themselves and that person. By things, I'm referring to being non-self-sufficient and the constant seeking of validation and attention from men, being continuously led on and not ignoring obvious red flags or writings on the wall, which always results in wasting their own time and leads to corrosion of the feminine energy, which hardens you over time, disabling it to be brought out when most needed. Becoming their competition, or trying to, is all done unconsciously through your actions and words when you have become accustomed to the corporate work system and, on autopilot, act out in different ways, i.e., unfeminine manners, and by prioritizing your ego's wants above anyone else's. This drive or urge for power is what leads women getting drawn into the blasphemous hustle culture and the urge to work despite needing to, the way a man does, as she will never have the same amount of financial responsibilities like a man. If power and control is what you seek, a pet can easily scratch that itch, not by placing yourself in an environment beneficial more to other experienced men, and much less to you by putting yourself and your femininity in more disadvantages. But I'll digress, because of also how in Islam, all or any of a woman's earnings are allotted simply for her, and a man's for his wife and family. This family includes his children and wife, first and foremost, then his parents if they are in need, then siblings given if in a dire situation. So because of this, the man has been anointed as the provider of his family from the get-go. For a woman wanting to work, that amount would only be considered for herself, yet the total opposite for the man. A man, whether a believer or a non-believer, in every society and culture it is expected of him from the get-go to be able to protect and provide. A good example of this, which randomly pops to mind, are the Kardashians and that brother of theirs. No one really knows or cares for what he's doing because he's simply not the breadwinner of the family. Such men that fail to complete their natural roles fall back in their place in society and end up becoming social outcasts if they are unable to provide or protect, if they are unable to provide for anyone other than themselves. And the small pool of men that might get triggered or angered by any of this simply cannot provide and aren't able to become husbands and fathers just yet. The expectations or responsibility that comes with being a powerful man just shows how they clearly must not have the means to have a family and provide for one. So now, my sisters on the other hand, are just exalted, so to speak, in the eyes of society if they choose to protect their femininity, purity, and spirituality by refraining to mix into the man's world that is the competitive workplace. The thought of a man providing only for himself is deemed selfish, but a woman being provided for by a man is never considered that way. No one would ever consider a woman to be selfish if she was working solely for herself and not providing for her husband and children. The woman was never created to withhold such a burden in the first place. But on the opposite end, women still have their versions of responsibilities that the opposite gender would never fully understand, and vice versa, hence the discourse. Now to fill in the balance, you can observe here why the man has generally more power or importance on pride or status in the eyes of the world. It is because this is the scale on which they are judged and what ostensibly showcases their value to the people around them, especially for marriage. This is why they're normally found in higher positions like president or boss or emperor or king, because they were created to endure such a role and all the burdens or responsibilities that come with it. A woman not deciding to run for president or fly a plane or become a millionaire by a certain age is not what she is judged by, but quite the opposite. In Islam, the ideals to look for in a wife are her beauty, her deen, her manners, and her character. Basically, how does she care for herself and others? Does she have a nurturing and compassionate nature? Is she loyal and can provide peace and spread joy into the lives she chooses to enter? Of course looks are important, and frankly, that's the easiest part about this whole thing anyway. What makes her effect everlasting are all these key components that make her, her higher version, her ideal self. And whether plenty or not many, her riches and wealth don't affect one bit to her suitor's decision to pursue her. This instills the ideology of how men and women are complete opposites, and therefore cannot be compared. Neither do they desire each other on the same scale. The female kind was not originally built on the foundation of having an ego and pleasing it and others all the time. But women have one too, of course, but not to the extent nor the severity of the way a man's entire life revolves around, which can be called his pride and honor. This is what constantly keeps him on the grind and locked into the hustle culture and always thinking ahead in the bigger picture. whereas women have been built to do the exact opposite, which is to just sit back and allow yourself to receive. The surprising thing is that till this day they haven't reverted from this built-in nature, but unfortunately women have, and believe it's empowering and liberating. When a female is in her receiving energy, allows life and nature to take its course, she will often be left shocked as to how a certain sudden crisis got averted, or how some little stressor she may have had just diffused into nothingness, or how it simply wasn't that big a deal. The severity of this example can be showcased in some skeptical viewers right here, who may have never experienced the fruit of simply believing in your creator, and how everything happens for good and never for worse. Regardless of what we see and what is present, there is a lesson and beauty in everything, and it's only us who perceive a certain series of events to be negative or positive. Because society has become so used to limiting everyone, totally relieving people from thinking outside of the box and living life through a pessimistic approach, which is considered cool and relatable, all thanks to the rise of anxiety that everyone seems to have nowadays. Like the Prophet had said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, never think of a past incident and nitpick what you should have or shouldn't have done. Leave it in the past and move on by learning from it. Your femininity operates in the same way. It's not what makes you weak, but exactly the reverse. When used properly, when leveraged properly, it can be your greatest strength, which it is. As mentioned before, your femininity is your power, as it's not limited to only your outward appearance. It's an aura, a way of being, and a lifestyle altogether. It relies on absolute trust in the almighty or unseen outcomes, which in fairy tales are what we like to call magic or miracles. In real life, this comes in the shape of your feminine intuition, or your sixth sense, or your gut feeling. We all have one, and it's always trying to tell us things about ourselves so we can protect ourselves from harm or danger, or simply better ourselves as high-value feminine beings. For example, a common one can be that after seeing some girl on your For You page, you quickly get sucked into a spiral of feelings of insecurity or jealousy, or maybe even a slight inner hatred for yourself, which is justifiable in the moment. But what you fail to realize right then and there are all the behind-the-scenes actions and lengths she may have gone through to look or portray herself in a certain way. The reason you're feeling these horrible things about yourself is because maybe your intuition is trying to tell you to level up your life, or your look, or stop wearing black, or it could just be a simple sign for you to get more healthy. When trying to look for the silver lining in everything, you're prone to living a happier, peaceful, and more fulfilled life through daily improvements and changes simply by shifting your perspective as the first step. You'll begin to see how measly insecurities or bad habits are affecting your life, and you can then slowly begin to untangle each one of them one by simply focusing and reflecting on why something is triggering, upsetting, or irritating you. As a result, you will be able to create a new, vastly improved version of yourself every day without having to strain or strive, since it will all naturally flow to you. I could, at the risk of sounding trite, tell you banal yet obvious things like tell you how exactly to do that, yet obvious things like allow people to hold the door open for you, or if someone offers to help you in carrying your groceries, let them, or wishes to give you good advice, take it. But politely accept and realize they're just giving you an opinion, not an order. Also, might I add, job and career are two separate things. Or something bigger like a job opportunity far, far away from your city where you meet the love of your life. Anything is possible. And maybe to break the fourth wall a little, the sheer fact you found this channel. Remember that the simple things like these can be messages from God trying to steer you in the right direction for you to ultimately become the best version of yourself. Like Nelson Mandela once said, I never lose, I either win or I learn. Everything stems back to your perception on the matter. Remember that whatever you focus on expands. If you choose to look at the glass half full rather than half empty, you will begin to see abundance and prosperity flowing into your life, left, right, and center, and lose track of how it all happened or came to be. Allah himself states, Call upon me and I will respond to you. Surah 40, verse 60. Furthermore, even in the Bible the same idea is being portrayed. Whatsoever ye pray and ask for, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. All you have to do is simply ask whatever you desire from the one who grants to all of his creations without any requirements, obligations, or limitations. hatta not even repentance, but simply because of the pure sheer fact that He alone is the ultimate sole provider of one and all, and expects for you to at least realize the gift of receiving He has granted you, and just trust in Him. It was that the Prophet once said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, ask from Allah everything, for even your 2 shoelaces, because if Allah doesn't make it easier for you to obtain it, you will not obtain it. It was narrated by Aisha anha. Anything that seems too big or small to you is 1,000,000 times lesser in value to Allah, and always will be, and so He grants to the ones who believe they deserve it when they ask. Whether receiving $1,000,000 by winning the lottery, or going viral online, or finding a nickel on the floor, are all meaningless possibilities to Allah, as no such thing exists as too big or too extreme. He is telling and reassuring you that you, in fact, can have it all. By learning to let go and to be vulnerable to life, by leaving everything in God's hands and trusting in His plan, and all that He has in store for you will only increase you in unimaginable ways. Now, people often think this means sit under a tree and wait for an apple to fall right into your mouth, yet are quick to forget that you need to pick up the apple in order to let it quench your hunger. When you are in receiving mode, the energy around you changes, and you become more open and aware, and more opportunities start finding their way to you. These things happen on a macro to micro level all the time. If your goal is to lose weight when in receiving mode, you'll start to discover new healthier recipes or options on the menus if you're eating out. Maybe you'll even get incentivized for doing so, like receiving deals or a coupon, or most likely you'll find easy at-home exercises on your feed, and it will perfectly align with your comfort level and schedule. And it works the same way in any other category too. Finally, now on that note, my dears, concludes this video, yet definitely not the discussion. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this matter and how you feel about this topic in the comments, and I'd be delighted to answer if you have any questions or other video topic ideas. I hope you learned something from this video and can benefit from it somehow. Thank you so much for watching, and see you very soon in the next video. And until then, peace and blessings and toodles for now. Assalamu alaikum.